it's got to be sticking up an inch. Okay. It's got to be sticking up an inch and 11/16 the hole saw. All right, we're back at work here on our skiff, and you can see we've got both gunnels on it at this point. Actually, they're both fastened down in place, and I glued this scarf. I still have to surface the top of it. The other scarf is drying right now. The glue's drying over there right now, so there's nothing I can do with that until probably tomorrow, but I wanted to show you a stem head here and talk to you just a little bit about what we're going to do with that. I've got to decide actually what to do with it. I mean, I haven't really decided. I used to always cut them into like about a 1x so that they'd be sticking up like a 1x with a hole straight through it, and you could tie a little loop of line through that hole and tie any line you wanted to that, and you wouldn't have to have a bow cleat. Well, it's just an idea. And then I've seen some of them just cut right off nice and flush, and I don't know, for some reason, that seems to improve the lines of the boat. So one way or the other, it probably won't make or break it, but we're gonna get to that. But before we even get to that, I wanna show you back here what we're gonna do about our spring line hardware. Now, what we need to have is something to tie the spring lines to right about amidships, or just barely aft of amidships right in here. And I just don't think it's right to have a cleat sticking out inside the boat, because you could bang your knees on it. There's all kinds of different things. I didn't even want anything sticking up above the gunwale or inside the gunwale inside, or, you know, it's just, I don't want anything in the way. I don't want anything to bang into. So I decided, well, we would put hawse pipes through the gunnels. And I think that's a great idea. But when I went to looking around at hawse pipes, wow, you know, hawse pipes are really worth some cake. So I decided, well, maybe I could just design some. So I've come up with this idea. These were turned on a lathe out of some just plastic through hull fittings. Now, really, they're just nice and round on the inside and fairly flush on the outside, nice and plumb here, so that you can sink them into the gunnel about 1/4 of an inch, and they'll only stick up about 1/8 of an inch, and you can slide things along the gunnel and it won't bang into it. You can put 2 dock lines through it, and we're going to place a cleat alongside the frame right down below it to tie off to. Now, we have to figure out exactly where we're going to place it, and I thought that amidships on the boat might be a little bit too far forward, because it's really not amidships on the breadth of the boat. The breadth of the boat right here, I would say that this would be the amidships of the breadth of the boat, and that's where we're going to place it right there. Now, the other thing we have to do is be awfully careful how we go about it, because we have just barely enough room between the inwale and the side planking to clearance this nut right here. So we have to be awful careful where we drill this hole. Now, the nut that we're going to put on the bottom side of the cap rail here is 2.5 inches, and the space that we've got in between there is 2.5 inches. So we've got exactly the right amount of space for the nut, and it looks like this on the bottom of the cap rail with the through hull fitting sticking down below it like that. And this is what it looks like from the top. So it looks nice and clean from the top. But like I said, we just have to be very careful that we place the hole in the right spot, so that we make sure we get the nut in the right area, so that this through hull fitting will screw right down into it after we make our recess in the top of the guard right here. Now, the next thing for us to do really here is to extend the side of the frame up on top of the gunnel cap like so. Now, that's just the side of the frame. And what I'm going to do here is put a pencil line alongside the rule. Now, that represents the side of the frame. And the next thing we're going to do is take the thickness of the inwale with our sliding square, like so, with my little sliding rule, and then I'm going to transfer that up on top of the gunnel cap, like so. Now, these 2 lines are very important to me, especially this one right here, because this one represents the inboard side of the inwale. And in this direction here, I have absolutely no grace whatsoever. I have to place the nut exactly right. Fore and aft, I could actually move it back and forth a little bit, and that'd be all right. I'm going to keep it kind of crowded up near the frame, right close like that, because that's where I want it. I want the line to drop straight down to the cleat. I don't want the line to go over on an angle from the gunnel over to the cleat down below like that. So that's the premise for that. But like I said, what I'm trying to do here is plot it out on my side. This is the side that I'm going to do the drilling from, even though the nut's going to be on the other side. So what I'm going to do now is take half the diameter of the nut being 2 9/16 of an inch. This is 1 1/4 inches plus a 32nd. So what I'm going to do is place one leg on the line here that's important to me and put the other one inboard like this and drop it down on top of the gunnel cap like that and swing it over like so. Now look, it just fell just aft of that line right there. That is actually exactly where I have to put it, but I could, like I say, drill it any amount forward of that. I think what I'll do is move it forward maybe 1/16 of an inch, and I'm going to end up drilling it right about there. So that is going to be the center of my pilot hole. I'm starting out here with a tapered drill bit, just so that I can center it on that little poked hole, and I'm just going to start it off, make sure it doesn't drift. Now that didn't look like it drifted a single bit to me. The next thing to do is to hold a hole saw up alongside of it like so, like on two sides like that, 90 degrees apart from each other, just to hold it 90 degrees to the surface here, just about like so. And there it is. I'm taking a rule here and I'm just getting an idea of how much hole saw is going to be left sticking up when I'm satisfied with the depth of the cut. We're going to use a 2 3/4 inch hole saw to make our first cut. Now that's just recessing the whole piece of equipment right down into the rail right there. So we're only going to go down in there 1/4 inch, and I've got to be pretty careful because a hole saw like this cuts really fast, especially on high speed. Because of the diameter of the hole saw, the teeth are going considerably faster than they would be on a much smaller diameter hole saw. We're either going to have to stop and measure, or we're just going to have to stop, because I think we've already come to the depth that I need to come to, and I'm just not willing to drill it anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that hole saw out of there. I'm going to take it off the arbor and put on an 1 7/8 hole saw and punch a hole right through. That's the diameter that I need to put the fitting right through the gunnel. Now what we're left with is the difference between the two diameters here. It's about maybe 3/8 of an inch of wood that I've got to take a chisel to here and just remove that with a chisel. So I'm going to pick up a very narrow chisel and go over to my bench grinder and give it a real quick grinding on the bench grinder, and then a couple passes on my stones on the bench with some alcohol. Now I don't use oil, I use alcohol, so it's kind of a soft chisel, but it'll work great for what I need to do here. And like I say, it's not very wide either. I'm going to go back over to the boat, and you can see there's the difference there between the two diameters of the hole saws left to go. It's 5/16 of an inch wide or so to 3/8 of an inch or so. And I'm just going to use that to start working my way around, taking some of the bigger pieces out. Once I've chiseled out most of the bigger pieces, I can just drop off the use of the mallet and work it by hand. I can go at it just with my heel and my hand, see? Just wiggle a little bit. Yeah, see, so here what I'm doing is I'm working my way down to the bottom here, and rather than using two tools, I'm only going to use one, just the chisel itself. The chisel and me, we should be able to take care of it. Now I'm just finishing up the last little bit of work that I have to do working the chisel by hand, and it looks pretty good to me. I'm going to stand the chisel up and scrape a little bit too, and that pretty much takes care of it right there. I'm done. Now we're going to try our hose pipe in the hole for the first time right here. And our enemy would have been if we had pushed it down in there too deep, but we haven't. It's nice and flush on the top. It's just the way I wanted it. No obstructions, nothing to bang into. Nice. You can put 2 dock lines down through that hole and tie them off to a cleat on the side of the frame right here, just the way we wanted it to be. Now, I don't know. I don't think I invented the hole, but I think I've improved on the hole right here. So the next thing for us to do really is to take this out of the way and put the nut down below the deck here so that we can screw the 2 pieces together. Now before I do install it, I'm going to show it to you one more time. I've shortened it up. I've cut the hose bob off the bottom of it because I just don't need it to be sticking way down below the gunnel at all. I don't want it to be visible from down below. I don't want it hanging way down because I don't want it to act like a lever. You see what I mean? There would be nothing supporting it if it was really, really long. So what I want it to be is very stubby and just sticking out the bottom of the gunnel just a little tiny bit, and that's what I've got. So now what I'm going to do is I just drop it in place here, and I'm going to show you how this thing all works. This is going to be a spring line. So we're going to feed it down the hose pipe like so, and I had said that I was going to put cleats on the sides of the frames, but after I thought about it, I didn't like it at all. In the first place, if I did put 2 lines down that hose pipe, I'd have to tie one over top of the other one on the cleat, and I didn't like that idea. So what I decided to do was put like thole pins through the frames. I'm going to use 1/2 inch, probably brass rod, and I'm going to drill a hole in the frame and slip that brass rod through the hole, and it's going to become used as what they call a belaying pin. Now, it's going to take the place of a cleat. You won't need any cleats. You just pick up your line, you pull it around the belaying pin, you go around the other end of it and make one loop right here and pull it tight, and it'll tie off just like that. Now, doesn't it look nice and neat? Now, the thing that I like about it is that it's the simplest thing in the whole wide world. And the next thing I like about it is if I wanted to put another line down the hole and have it stick down, I could just put another pin down here and tie it just below it. I think that is really a benefit, especially when you might want to tie any one of these, untie either one of these lines anytime. Who knows which one it's going to be. And the other thing is cleats cost quite a bit of money. I just don't want to start scattering cleats all over the place. I just think it'll look really nice and simple like this. It'll serve the purpose. And the other thing is, I think it'll stay tied up a little bit better. The reason for that is because of the corners. The line's going to be going around the corners of this oak when it's tied off to one of these thole pins. And the thing about it is that they're nice and sharp. When I had a cleat clamped on there, I took a chrome cleat or a stainless cleat and I clamped it onto the frame, and I put the line down the hole and tied it off to the cleat, and I tied it on there the way you're supposed to do it. And you could stand just like you can undo a bowline, like people say you can't, and just pull on the line and just pull it a little light and pull it and slack up and pull it and slack up and just pull the line right out of the hole. So, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to just say I tied it off. I want it tied off. So this is the way we're going to go about it right here.